Well, Tim Legler with us, will be throughout the finals, and let's talk finals. You feel like this comes down to how the Heat guard Denver. What has most impressed you about the way Miami, as Malone was just talking about, has played defense in the postseason?
Yeah, so it's both man-to-man and zone. We make so much about the zone. But, you hear teams, Scott, when they say they play zone with man-to-man principles?
Sure.
Miami plays man-to-man defense with zone principles.
Meaning?
Meaning they do not allow penetration, and they're all about the closeout. They're not going to leave anybody hung out to dry on dribble penetration. So let's get into it right here, because this is fascinating to me to watch this team defend right now. The first thing they're so good at, and this is going to be a man-to-man set, is they're so good at making sure they get 5 guys ahead of the basketball. You just don't see lack of effort on the Miami Heat. Everybody is back to force teams to play against their half-court defense, because Tatum had a little bit of giddy up here. There's only 3 seconds off the clock when he crosses half court. You already have 5 Heat defenders back. Second thing that they do that a lot of teams don't do, everybody loves to switch, we know that, but most teams will just go ahead and they'll just make these automatic switches on any ball screen, and it's disadvantageous to do that. Obviously, Tatum would like to operate against Zeller. Well, the Miami Heat don't do it. They do a hard hedge, and they ask this player to chase an elite offensive player. In this case, it's Jimmy Butler. So you're just going to hold him up until Butler can get back there. Most teams don't make that extra effort. The Miami Heat do. So once he gets back, this is what I'm talking about. They're in man-to-man with zone principles. And here's what I mean. You don't ever give up strong side corner, so you're going to get a stunt knowing you're not leaving, but you're going to stunt enough that Jason Tatum sees traffic. This guy knows you're never leaving strong side corner. Zeller is going to stay right in front of the driving lane while Jimmy Butler continues to pursue from the top side. Look at the weak side. You got to duck in. That weak side corner defender is going to stunt here to take away this direct pass to the middle, knowing he has shooter. The whole time he's leaning in this direction, but you just want to give a look so that there's traffic right there at the top. Tatum ends up with nothing. Watch this close out by Strus. On the catch, Strus is there. Shoulder square to the sideline. He's trying to force a baseline. I'm sure Eric Spoelstra would wish that it would stay there. Doesn't do it. It does escape back to the middle, but watch how the possession continues. 5 guys watching the basketball, nothing on penetration. Kick out, close out by Vincent. One more time. Marcus Smart wants to back you down. Look at the weak side. All eyes are up. You know you're going to have a closeout here. Jimmy Butler is hedging on this, knowing he's going to get out to this corner shooter, but he's providing traffic from the top. You got a guy in the lap, knowing he's going to get out here. One more kick out. Take a look at the effort by Jimmy Butler. Goes for the head fake, but then this is how they finish every possession, Scott. Every possession, hand on hand. Elite level closeout. Jimmy Butler gets a stop. Now, let's talk about the zone. People ask all the time, are they in a 2-3 or 3-2? They're in neither. The Miami Heat play a 2-2-1. It is very unique the way that they play this, because they're asking their wings to do something very specific. Very often you'll see 2 guys on the basketball when they play zone. Where do you want to get the ball? Against a zone? In the middle of the floor. But here is what Miami does not do that most teams do when they play zone. Most teams will get a wing pinch in on this pass, one way or the other. And now you're basically saying there's no way I'm going to get out to these shooters, because certainly Zeller's not going to get there. The Heat ask the backline guy to come up and take this middle pass, knowing that the 2 wings are going to have whichever way the ball comes. So Jimmy Butler's got 2. He's going to go first pass whichever direction it comes. Obviously, Duncan Robinson has the corner shooter. So when this comes out, watch Jimmy Butler's reaction. Gets there, and again, that's just elite level. I mean, he was 10 feet away when this started. He gets a piece of this, forced the miss, incredible closeout, and the Miami Heat secure the basketball. So everything they do is so connected, Scott, defensively. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
And the Heat clearly watch every little thing. I thought the sound after they won the series from Spo was really interesting, that in Game 6, even though they lost, he felt like analytically all the things, closeouts, rotations, all the things they're paying attention to, they were great at, and they were great.
Yeah.
There's a problem, though, in the next series, right? The big fella?
Yeah, could present some issues.
Jokic, the main reason why Denver's such a heavy favorite in this series, according to Caesars Sportsbook, currently 9-point favorites in Game 1, minus 410 to win the series. Joker, minus 360 to be the Finals MVP. Shortest by any player entering the Finals in the last 20 seasons. But Jokic himself was asked about being favorites, and he's really not buying any of that.
Who said that we are favorites? The media?
Las Vegas.
And Las Vegas told us that we were underdog before. It's not correct, I think. I mean, I think we are not the favorites. I think in the finals there is no favorites. this is going to be the hardest game of our life, and we know that, and we are prepared for that. We are preparing and prepare for that. So I think there is no favorites, and definitely I think we are not favorites in this series. I think they are not either. I think it's just the finals. There is no favorites in the finals. My opinion.
Vegas thinks they're pretty big favorites, in large part, Tim, because of him. And you showed us earlier how the Miami Heat defensively have been spectacular. But what specific challenges does Jokic present to stress what Miami does so well?
So he's unique in two ways. One, he will spend most of the game in the exact area of the floor that you're trying to keep the ball out of. And you can't deny him because he's too big, he's too strong, he holds guys off.
7-foot point guard.
Correct. He's going to catch it. And then the second thing he does, he immediately is going to make a read that's going to pick you apart based on whatever coverage you have, even if you do it almost perfectly.
You told me about, in watching the tape, volumes of tape, you feel like Jokic is what?
Yeah, this isn't even prone to exaggeration. This is the most decisive basketball player I've ever seen. And basketball is based on a series of decisions, one after another, in rapid speed. Nobody makes them quicker or more correctly more often than Nikola Jokic. Everything he does has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. There's no wasted motion, no wasted decisions. The ball goes on to the next place that it's supposed to be, and he just has this incredible ability to have multiple options at his disposal because of his vision, his IQ, and then his passing ability. Here's a couple examples. First of all, it's just unique in that very few teams, have their center bring the ball up the court.
Right.
But they're going to go back to him. Everybody get up the floor, let Nikola come up and decide what we want to do. Now he gets this little brush screen, so now you get the switch right away. Here's what I'm talking about where he wants to operate. Now, this ball is in the air, and it's hard to tell a little bit from this, but can you see his head is already turned?
Yeah, he's either going to Porter or Murray.
He's already got his head turned. The ball hasn't hit the palm of his hand yet. And by the way, he also only has one dog up in the air. And that's important because if he puts two hands up on the ball, it's easier to jam up into his chest. He's got his left arm holding off the defender while the right arm cradles the basketball. And now he's looking at one very specific thing. He wants to know what Austin Reeves is about to do because you're going to get a duck in right here by Porter. So is Austin Reeves going to fight around on this side? That's fine. You want to do that? He's going to put it on a rope over here to the corner to Michael Porter. If Austin Reeves wants to sort of cheat it, which is exactly what he does, he tries to get back, well, then you've got an easy decision. You're just going to hit Gordon on the duck in right here. And again, look how high this basketball is. It goes right over LeBron's head. He can't even get to it because of the position in which he's releasing the basketball from. So it's split-second decision-making. Here's another one. And this is one of their favorite actions that they run. The little flare screen on the weak side. You're going to get an up screen and a flare out here for Murray. Now, if they play this incorrectly and Booker jams into this screener, well, then it's an easy decision. You're just going to go right here to Murray for a wide-open three-point shot. Jokic is watching all of this. They actually play this pretty well. They get to switch. Well, here's the next part he's going to look at. You got a dive right here by Porter. But he's letting go with the basketball, but I've watched 20 of these sets. If by any chance this backline defender wants to cheat, you want to cheat over that? That's fine. This ball is then going to be thrown on a rope to the opposite corner. Oh, and by the way, I also saw an example of this where both backline guys did what they're supposed to do. He cut off this. This guy dropped thinking he's going to the corner shooter, and then he spun around practically in a 360-degree position
KCP.
and hit this shooter. So this is what I mean by decisive. The ball was in his hand for a nanosecond, and he's got it onto the next guy because of how quickly he processed not only what the initial action is doing, what are these two guys on the weak side of the floor doing? And that's why the zone is going to be very difficult to pull off against this particular player.
That's just going to ask you. You can play it against Boston, who gets stagnant and settles for threes all night. Can you even do it against Denver and Jokic?
Can't do it because he's going to get his team better shots than Boston was getting. First of all, they're just going to play with more nerve. They're going to play with more poise. They're just a better offensive team than what we saw out of Boston in that series, particularly late. He's just going to get the ball quickly to the next person where it's supposed to go. And those guys have so much faith and confidence it's coming their way when they're supposed to get it. They just step into everything with so much more, aggressiveness and certainty than anything you saw out of Boston. And it's all because of Jokic.
You like Denver in the series?
I do like Denver in the series. I'll give Miami respect. I think they, let's give them 6 games to go in this series. But I think Denver, because of the unique nature of what Jokic brings to the table, I just don't see how the Heat keep them to the number they have to with a team that doesn't have a ton of firepower. You got to get to 110, 115 against Denver to beat them. just have a chance to beat them. I don't know that Miami could do that.
I think Thursday is the most interesting game of the series. Game 1 in New York, Game 1 in Milwaukee, Game 1 in Boston. Miami won all of them. They have been road warriors. Be interesting to see if they can land that punch. Coming off a 7-game series, right? We'll
Mile
find
high, too.
Yeah, 52-80 on the floor for a reason. All right, Tim will be with us throughout the finals, and you'll get more of it tomorrow night. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.